Hey guys, it's Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher, jumping on again for another edition of the EE Live Q&A, all designed to help you navigate this crazy world that we call express entry. There we go. How about that intro? Woo! Thanks to Ralph Hansky who created that for me. I added a little bit of an audio to it, but once again, trying to experiment with some different things, and the video quality was awesome. My technique in using it as an intro, I'm sure, really had much to be desired, but that's all right, because it's not about the form, it's all about the substance. And once again, as I said, I'm Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher, coming to you live on the Canadian Immigration Institute's Facebook page. And for many of you who have followed me for years, I used to do that on the Express Entry Law private Facebook group, but I found that people who were watching it were not able to actually share it outside the group. So if they had friends or other people they wanted to let know that, hey, Mark's going live with another EE Live Q&A, they couldn't do it outside the group. So I moved it over to the Canadian Immigration Institute Facebook page, and that is where we're broadcasting live. I've got some exciting things that I'm going to be sharing with you. One, as you see in the introduction, the title, and the description of this video, I've got one of the most awesome stories that I'm going to be able to share. I've got a guest, Igor, who's come on, and if his dear wife Tetiana gets back in time, she's going to join us as well. But if not, that's okay. Igor's going to share his story, which is so cool, and I'm excited to have him join me in a little bit. We've got a bunch of people that are piling on now, which is great. As always, I want you guys to please let me know where you're tuning in from. And those of you who are starting to post questions, hold off on posting those. I will answer those in a little bit. But for now, let me know where you're tuning in from. And that intro video, Ralph, he says, nice. There we go, Ralph. Awesome. He created that video montage, which was so cool. And so thanks so much for doing that, Ralph. That was so kind. And you can see I added a little bit of an audio in there, which I think it worked out all right. Okay, let's see where people are tuning in from today. It's a beautiful sunny February the 4th, 2020 here. I'm broadcasting from my home, actually. Yeah, I live in Kyiv, Ukraine. And you can see I'm here overlooking my balcony with the city behind me and one of the most iconic monuments. And I'm going to have Igor when he joins me. And Igor is from the Ukraine. This is a picture he shared with me, and that will be the backdrop for my EE Live Q&A today. And we'll have him explain a little bit about the significance of this amazing monument and what it means to the people of the Ukraine. All right, so let's see where people are tuning in here. Priya says, hello, Mark. Thanks for your great help. You're very welcome, Priya. Tamor is in Canada. Awesome. Welcome. I guess Tamor is probably on a lunch break. It's noon Mountain Standard Time, and every Tuesday at noon is when I broadcast. And Shu says he's from India. Great. And Priya is also from India. Ralph says, yeah, it's good. Katamba is Uganda. So we've got a great group of people that are piling on here. So when you jump on, please post in the comments where you're tuning in from. I have some questions, as always, that were sent in by people who were not able to actually watch live. And I want to give a shout out to all of those viewers on the Canadian Immigration Institute's YouTube channel, because you form a very large part of the questions that are sent in. So eventually I'll probably shift and start doing live videos on YouTube. But at this stage, this is kind of where I'm comfortable with. And then the videos that are posted on YouTube are the recordings of these amazing live question and answer sessions, all devoted to express entry. All right, we got a bunch of other people commenting. Let's see who else we have here joining us. Tamor says, yeah, he is taking his lunch. That's awesome. Okay. We have Christopher is tuning in from Ghana. Awesome. Abhishek says, nice background. It is awesome. Okay, let's, before we get too far into this, I think it's time to pull in my special guest, Igor. And so let's see, I'll let you know, Igor, when we got you, if I can figure this out. All right, we are here. Okay, Igor. So why don't you introduce yourself? Tell, excuse me, tell our audience a little bit about who you are and how you have found yourself here joining me today.
So my name is Igor. I come from Ukraine, and we applied for express entry with the help of Mark to move to Canada. It's been a long journey. We come from Odessa, which is the city on the coast of Black Sea, and then we moved to Poland, spent 1 year in Poland, and then we moved back to, not back, but we moved to the United States. I was an exchange student 10 years ago, and then came back another time in 2013. And in 2017, we ended up in the United States. And after hopelessly trying to get papers in the United States, we realized that we have no other choice but to move to Canada.
Now, fill people in, Igor. So you guys had a plan in the U.S., right? You came in lawfully. You were doing everything that you could with what you had control over, and then you put your trust in some people. And what happened?
Yeah. So to start with, the most important thing is to choose the right person. As we ended up in the United States, my wife, she was a professional wrestler back in Ukraine. She was a champion of Ukraine, champion of Europe. She was really successful, and she found a coach in New York who was also Ukrainian national, but he trained U.S. Olympic champion in wrestling, Helen Maroulis. So he advised Tetiana to try to pursue EB1 visa for extraordinary talent. And that's what we tried to do. And we applied through a lawyer in California. And since day one, things started to go wrong. So our lawyer filed our case 2 days prior prior to date we get out of the status. And she advised us to pay for premium processing, which adds up another $4,000 approximately. So that if we get denial, she would charge us another time to file for asylum or find any other way for us to stay in the United States, and thus charge us more money. So we applied, waited for 1 month, and then we received a request for additional evidence. So we contacted a lawyer in the United States, and she said, okay, I can file a response, but that would cost you another $1,500. And we didn't have this much money. While flying to California to submit our fingerprints and returning back to New York, I realized that I have $150 in my pocket. And I had to start all over again from coming back to the United States with $5,000 in pocket and ending up in one of the most expensive countries in the world with $150 in the end. And so we didn't file the request for additional evidence, as she also didn't want to file. She just wanted us to fail and then charge us another time for a new process. And we ended up with a consultation with New York-based lawyer who advised us to try to move to other country. And having this much experience with being represented by a wrong person, the most important thing for us was to find a lawyer who actually cared about our case, who actually cared not about making money off his own clients, but who actually felt what it means to immigrate to another country, what it means to be alone without parents in the age of 23 years old back then. And we found Mark. I was not really sure if Mark was a good person at the first glance, honestly, because all I could make my judgments of was his live Q&A. But we decided to give him a try, and we got on a consultation. Within first 10 minutes, all our questions were asked and answered. We just realized that Mark was not the person who just makes money, who is the person who actually wants to try.
That's for sure. I'm definitely not the person who just makes money.
And Mark told us that he doesn't take cases when he sees that the only outcome would be failure. he wants to help people, not to rip them off. And this is what happened. So we made our decision right away. We understood that this is the right way to go. Mark is the right person to trust, and we retained his services. The next thing I remember and wanted to share, I don't know if Mark is okay with that, but
You can share whatever. Nothing embarrasses me.
there were cases where Mark had to spend like 6 hours ongoing, going through all of their papers. Then another Skype call was 4 hours long. Our phone calls, Skype calls, were ending at 2 a.m. At Mark time, it was like midnight. And I remember one day that Mark canceled all his family meeting just because he had to help us to submit our case as soon as possible. And this is just something that sometimes you don't even experience this from your own family members. Sometimes
I actually forgot about that, Igor. I actually forgot that we did that, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I felt my uncle didn't care as much. Sometimes I felt even maybe my dad didn't care as much, but Mark was always there, and I tried not to bother him as much as I probably could, but I knew that if something terrible would happen, if something would come to his inbox, we would be advised and contacted right away. And the story ended that we submitted our paperwork on March 29th, and we expected, okay, so 6 months, not that much, but every day felt like a year. It was really difficult to wait, especially knowing that we ended up out of status in a different country and that we could be caught any day, that we don't have any other chance but to move to Canada or come back home. And there was one day which happened really recently. I wrote to Mark crying because I didn't expect this to come. So when we submitted the paperwork, somehow US officials got to know that we are out of status here. So what they did, they sent us a notice to appear in immigration court in the beginning of the removal proceedings. So I wrote to Mark, I think we have to fly back to Poland or Ukraine and wait for our Canadian decision from there. Mark, I don't know how it ended like this, but he pulled all of his friends, all of his acquaintances, other lawyers, consultants. I don't know all the procedure, but what Mark did. But he even tried to find a lawyer who had the right to practice in Canada at the same time as practice in United States, and provided us with the greatest consultation, greatest support. And he filed a response letter, which was really, I'd say, strict. That's how I recognize it. It was like,
we don't know which immigration officers are actually watching this video, so we'll maybe tone down a little bit. But I want everybody to understand something throughout this whole process. Even though Igor and Tetiana were officially out of status in the U.S., we fully disclosed all of it. So there was nothing in any way, shape, or form that we concealed. Everything was out there. Even in the response letter that Igor's talking about, we went out of our way to, to explain the circumstances. And yeah, so in terms of strict, I basically just said, I don't believe that Igor, there's any reason or any grounds for not allowing him in. And, and this is a real unsettled area of the law. As to what extent being out of status in the U.S. actually can result in someone being inadmissible to Canada. And in my submission, I indicated that I didn't believe that was a possibility, that an officer could make that judgment. And so we based the submission on that, and I basically in there, which I had not really done for too many clients in the past, said, look, these are two really good kids, and they deserve a chance in Canada. And through no fault of their own, they were in this situation in the U.S., and they would be a huge asset to Canada. And
just to clarify the strictness, maybe that's the wrong word, but what I meant is that in times where we didn't believe in ourselves, in times that we were scared, Mark was confident. he believed in our case as much more than we did. And he was confident about his success with our case. And that gave us such a boost of confidence later on. And I'm so grateful. Our life would not be as it is right now without Mark and what he did for our case. He just did impossible job, dedicated all his time, all his efforts, and all his powers to help us.
And
Thank you.
I want to add something for everybody that's watching. I like Igor. He's a good guy. His wife is they're awesome people. But he's not special. The way I treated him was pretty much how I treat all my clients. So I tell him that repeatedly. This is just what I do when people need me. And so, yeah, so yes, he's awesome. And I'm so excited for him, and he can finish his story. But I don't know. The one message I have for the world is that this is at least one lawyer who actually cares.
Yeah. So the whole story actually is almost at the end already. But so we've got this notice to appear before a court in California, terrified, honestly terrified and scared what's going to happen, whether we will be arrested at court. I don't know. I've never been in this situation. I have no one to consult with except Mark. And Mark told the only thing you have to do right now is to fully comply, to follow the law, to follow their orders. And that's what we did. We appeared before court, and thanks God, the judge who was hearing our case was a really reasonable man. We told him all the story, maybe in more details than I tell right now, but I felt like he felt sorry. And I told him that I'm proud to be a Canadian permanent resident right now. And he just gave us the maximum term to leave the country. He felt really compassionate, and it just like after we came out of the court, I had this feeling that I don't know if humanity invented the word to describe it, but when the ground beneath your feet is really soft, it feels like you're flying. You have no idea how to react, whether to cry, whether to be happy, that finally you're free. Finally, you don't have to be afraid of anyone. Finally, when there is a funny story that when I was an exchange student, my host mom, her name is Lynn, she added her phone number to my book, like phone book, right? And she made an acronym, ICE, in case of emergency. And every time that she called me, it was displayed like ICE is calling. I was terrified every time. This is.
You
And
better
then I
tell
was
everybody
like,
what that acronym stands for in the US.
that acronym stands for Immigration and Custom Enforcement, which is the police force that deports illegal aliens. And I was so terrified every time that I pick up the phone, ICE is calling. I'm like, oh my God, this is funny. But eventually I was lucky to write her like, I'm no longer have to be terrified. I'm going to a country which welcomes me, and I've never experienced this in my life as well, that I'm not even in Canada right now, but we've registered with all the organizations that help immigrants, and they gave us a call. They scheduled webinars, they scheduled personal consultations before we arrival, and you honestly feel that the country cares for you, that the country wants you in Canada, that finally you can say proudly, I am Canadian permanent resident.
Awesome.
Thank you, Mark.
That is so cool. Thank you so much, Igor, for sharing that story. So you're in New York right now. You've got your passport with your confirmation of permanent residence and your visa. And when are you planning on traveling, and where are you headed?
As soon as we got our visa, that same night, we decided that we have to go to Canada as soon as possible. Even though we have around 120 days to leave the United States, we don't want to spend a day here. We just want to come and settle our life in Canada and become honorable members of the society.
Awesome. So cool. And where are you headed?
Calgary.
Yeah. Woo! Awesome. Very cool. Thank you so much, Igor, for taking that time to share your story. And I know that it's going to be a huge benefit to others that are in your situation, and just this belief that, that things are possible, and that despite the challenges with the immigration process, Canada is a pretty good place. And as you've
Yeah.
experienced, there are resources out there to actually help you succeed when you come. So,
Just one remark that I
yes.
wanted to share with people who ended up in our situation. If you're out of the status, you don't have to be afraid. There is always a chance. But given one condition, you have to be honest and disclose everything. This may be scary. You may think, what's going to happen to me? Maybe they will not like me. But you have to be honest. Everything is based on honesty. If you don't trust somebody, how you can accept them to your country?
Yes.
And I feel like the advice that Mark gave us, that was the groundwork for everything. Honesty.
Awesome. So cool. Thank you so much, Igor. We will
Thank
be
you.
in touch, my friend.
Thank you.
Okay, take care. We'll see you later.
See ya. Bye.
All right. Well, you guys can see that was unbelievable. I wish that you guys could have been right there with us as we went through this journey, and it was unbelievably stressful. And yeah, it was like even for me, and I couldn't help but have just so much compassion for Igor and his wife. And it's too bad we weren't able to see Tetiana, but the reality is they are just great people, and Canada is that much better because of accepting them. All right, so there we go. I wanted to share that story. Just great people. All right, so I'm going to start off first with the questions that were sent in via email. And if you have a question, and let's see, once again, I'm always struggling to find where I keep these, all of the little pop-ups on my screen, but right here and right here, these two. So if you send an email to info@holthylaw.com and put EE Live Q&A. Actually, I don't like that one. That one's kind of weird. Let's go with this one. There, you can see that one a little bit better. So if you have a question that you want to have answered in the EE Live Q&A, this is how you do it. You send an email to info@holthylaw.com, and don't forget to put EE Live Q&A in the subject line. And when you do that, that triggers my intake specialist, Mauricia, to triage that question as one to be answered in another upcoming EE Live Q&A. And so that's how you can do it if you are unable to watch this, or you're watching this as a recording on Facebook, or in the Express Entry Law private Facebook group, or anywhere that the Canadian Immigration Institute has a footprint, like YouTube. If you're watching it there, that's how you get your questions answered. Now, I do want to point out that your question has to be of general nature, something that would benefit all of the members of the group. If it's specific, like how do I qualify for a PNP program, or explain if I'm eligible for Express Entry, that will always result in Mauricia sending you back a request to see if you want to book a consultation. Because anything specific related to just you, that's where you need to book a paid consultation with me in order for that to happen. But if you have a general question that I feel might be benefit to all of the people that are watching and tuning in, then that's how you send it. Okay, so EE Live Q&A in the subject line, and and info@holthylaw.com right there. We can maybe make these just a tiny bit smaller so they're not taking up as much space. But right there, that's how you connect. Okay. All right. So let's shift gears here and let's head over to, so hold off on posting your questions until I give you the sign for those of you that are watching live. And we're just going to tackle some of these questions right now. So the first one that I have here, all right, let's see. So this one, it says, "Hey Mark, it's me, Sundus from Karachi, Pakistan, and I'm almost 6 months past AOR." So that's the acknowledgement of receipt of his electronic application for permanent residence. That's his filing of his application. He said, "I called up IRCC call center a few days back, and the agent said they are reviewing eligibility, and that there is a note that read the case officer plans to finalize my application by the end of this month, January. What exactly does that mean? Your help would be highly appreciated." So this was actually a question I think I may have answered in the last one. Yes, I did actually. And I can see Mauricia indicated that. But I'll just answer it again. If you're in this type of a situation, and they say it's going to be finalized, you are so close. And you can guarantee that in a very short period of time, you're going to get that golden email that requests your passport. All right. Okay. Fazia says, Dear Mark, greetings for the day. What is the difference between eligibility MET and it's really MEC, minimum entry criteria? Eligibility recommended pass and eligibility passed, or is it all the same? What exactly is the background check? If you can please explain these various stages of an application in brief. Okay, so what you have to understand is there's different levels of assessment. One of them is to determine if you meet the minimum entry criteria, MEC, for the Federal Skilled Worker Program, if you're applying from outside of Canada, or the Federal Skilled Trade Program, or if you're inside Canada, the Canadian Experience class, usually is the programs. Well, you first thing, before you can even get in the pool to submit a profile, you have to meet excuse me, those eligibility requirements. And when you have your GCMS notes that you've requested that show every step of your application, when an officer is assessing the eligibility, they're looking to make sure that you meet those requirements. And if you meet them, then great, then you advance to the pass stage. And then what they're looking at, excuse me, also, is that you actually have the documents and the information to support what you put in your profile that resulted in you getting an invitation to apply in the first place. So when you go through this whole process, that's what the eligibility assessment is. It's, are you actually eligible to immigrate to Canada through the programs, and can you prove that you actually have that age, that language, the work history, and the education that resulted in you getting the comprehensive ranking system points that allowed you to rank high enough to get that invitation to apply. So that's the eligibility. Then when it comes to the background checks, that's where they look into your police certificates. They look to make sure that, like if it says criminality passed, that means they've looked to see if you've been, your police certificates are all clear. The places that you lived and the certificates that you obtained, to make sure that there's nothing there that would potentially equate to an offense in Canada that would make you inadmissible criminally. Then there's one more step, which is the background and security screening. So notwithstanding you providing information to them, the government also has the means, if they so choose, to go and do some other investigation. And remember, one of the things that they always do is they have the ability to cross-reference with other countries to which Canada has information sharing agreements, like the United Kingdom, the US, Australia, New Zealand. So all of these countries, Canada has the ability to share information, immigration histories, including your immigration history. So if you had something that didn't go very well in one of those countries, you had better make sure that you fully disclose it in your application. Otherwise, it can result in a finding of misrepresentation. And trust me, I've had recent experience just very recently where it has the potential of going very, very badly for an individual because of things that happened in another country, one of those 4 countries, that ultimately were not properly disclosed in the application that they submitted, their EAPR. And now it could unravel everything for them. And in their case, I wasn't able to help them. So you have to be very, very aware of that. So really, Fazia, that's kind of how it works in terms of those stages. All right. Okay, so now let's go to the next one. This is Anshi, and Anshi says, actually, this is Anshu. Anshu says, hello, Mark. First of all, thanks a lot for replying to my question in your earlier video. All right, we got a repeat customer. Now I have another question. I'm in a unique situation. My current CRS is 461, and I got an OINP invitation, which is valid till the 29th of February, 2020. However, I'm waiting for my wife's ECA to complete, which will add another 10 points to my profile, and my CRS will increase to 471. However, the ECA process is going on from October 2019, but I'm told by Wes that it might take another month to complete. My question is if I should wait for ECA to complete or should I accept the OINP nomination? My friend, without any reservation, you accept that OINP nomination. You do not want to push the envelope. Today is February the 4th. February the 29th is when that opportunity comes to a close. You do not want to take any chances. You're going to include everything that you have. If you're the principal applicant, okay, then your spouse's education is not as important. Because remember, when you obtain your actual nomination from the Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program, you're going to get another 600 points, which virtually guarantees you're going to get an invitation to apply. And that's regardless of the extra few points, 10 points that your spouse could potentially get for you. If the province of Ontario is already expressing or sending you a notification of interest, then that means you've got a really good chance that that's going to get approved. You don't want to jeopardize it by holding off or waiting too late. Yes, maybe the ECA comes back. Great, maybe you can include it. Well, maybe you also in that application indicate that your spouse, you're just waiting on the ECA. If there's a spot to include that within what you are providing to the OINP, I'd keep them informed and tell them that you will provide it as soon as it's received. All right? So that's what I recommend, Anshu. Congratulations. That's really, really exciting. Okay, and the last question right here is, this is Himanshu. And Himanshu says, I hope you and your family is doing well. I'm from India. I've already subscribed to your step-by-step DIY guide. That's awesome, Himanshu. My question is that if a person has started working in January as an international student, becomes eligible to work full-time when he applies for a postgrad work permit, but he actually gets his postgrad work permit in April of the same year, how his work experience is going to be considered. It will be from January or April. So one of the things that is not written anywhere, at least nowhere that I can find it, is that IRCC, at least in the past, has expressed an interest or a willingness to grant or allow you to count your Canadian work experience from the date that you submitted or filed your postgrad work permit application. So the moment the day that you electronically filed it. So for my clients, we count, as long as you're working, we count the day on which we get the little electronic confirmation that the postgrad work permit was actually submitted. So that's the day that we go with. All right. Okay, that's awesome. Great questions today, guys. I'm going to close that out so I can clear my messy screen. If you're tuning in a little bit late, I had an absolutely amazing interview with Igor, one of my past clients, who is truly almost the very newest permanent resident of Canada. On the 10th, they're planning on flying to Calgary to complete the landing, and you've got to go back and watch that. If you, well, I guess if you're tuning in live, you've got to go back and watch the recording. For those of you who are tuning in as a recording or to this recording, you're going to have had the benefit of listening to him. And you can see he is awesome. So cool. Okay, now it's time for you to post your live questions. And I think just while I'm waiting to do that, I want to show you guys, if you've missed it, I want to show you something that my good friend Ralph Hansky, he's like a brother to me. This is something that he created for me that I'm going to start using a little bit in my EE Live Q&A. So while we're waiting for people to post their questions, and we'll start right after Parth. So we'll start with Caro's question first. But while we're doing this, check this out. I want to share this with you. Hey guys, it's Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher, jumping on again for another edition of the EE Live Q&A, all designed to help you navigate this crazy world that we call express entry. Isn't that awesome? That is so cool. You know, Ralph just surprised me with it. And, you know, I can't tell you how often I've had that experience with people who have watched and been followers, just appreciating all that I'm trying to do to share information and help people navigate this literally this crazy world of express entry. It's given me an opportunity to make relationships with people all over the world. And I'll be honest, they have literally changed my life. They've given me tremendous satisfaction and feeling like I'm actually accomplishing something worthwhile. So thanks to all of you who've been so kind and just so supportive. All of the moderators in my Express Entry Law private Facebook group, thank you to you for the dedication that you put in keeping that group a good, safe place full of information people can trust. And for all of you who come and join me live, who come and watch these these crazy hour-plus long episodes, and even more so, those of you crazy people who watch these as videos, because if you look at what's out there on the internet, everyone will tell you no one has the attention span to sit and watch a video that's an hour and a half long. And sometimes they are that long. But I'm just here answering questions, and so I might as well record it. But as my new firm, Holthe Immigration Law, right here, which I'm super excited about, I'm no longer with my previous firm, Stringham, but Holthe Immigration Law is my new firm. And as that continues to grow and expand, as I bring in more people to work with me and I kind of teach them the HIL way of doing representation, it's going to free up more time for me to do these kinds of things. In the interim, I've got a lot of work that I'm funneling through. I was up till about 3:30 a.m. last night, and I had, well, my first consult started at 9 o'clock, so I had about a 4-hour sleep, and then I had to get up. So I'm kind of operating on fumes, but that's okay. So in the interim, I'm going to stop talking now, and let's get to the questions of our live listeners. Okay. So Carol's question here is, hi, I'm from Argentina. I have a question for you. Can I claim points for the time I was working as an RA and a TA, which are research assistant and teaching assistant, during my Master of Science in Canada while on a student visa? I only took classes on 2 semesters or for less than 5 hours per week, and I was doing RA work 30 plus hours per week. So this is one of the questions that is asked so frequently. And if you're trying to claim under the Canadian Experience class, you can't claim work history while you're on a study permit. And so one thing I don't know from your question, Carol, and this is something that we can bring up and address maybe in a future EE Live as well. If you're on a work permit, then you're free to claim whatever work experience you want. But if you're there, Master of Science on a study permit, then you can't claim that as Canadian work experience. It's specifically excluded. The jury's out a little bit on whether or not you can count that as other experience, but there's really only two kinds of experience. There's Canadian work experience, or there's foreign work experience. And so what I have not yet been able to determine, and some of you out there that may be smarter than me, I've asked immigration this question, but I haven't been satisfied with their answer. I'm uncertain as to whether you can claim that type of work experience in Canada under the federal skilled worker program as general work experience. Maybe you can count it towards, the work experience component for the federal skilled worker program, but whether or not you can count it for under the comprehensive ranking system, that I don't know. So that's one of the things that I have not yet. It's unsettled for me, and maybe if some other people have some direct responses or experiences doing that, I'd love for you to post them. But Carol, that's something I can't answer with 100% degree of certainty. So, all right, but it's something that we can definitely look. We can take a look at and see if we can find a more specific answer for you. Okay, Urshmeet says, hey Mark, my express entry was taking long, and I mailed them after 7 months, and they replied that you applied in the federal skilled worker category. I was short on funds by $200. I only had $12,500, so they gave me 30 days. What should I do? Please suggest how should I proceed? Thank you. Okay, Irshmeet, this is a perfect example of where you would need to book a consultation, because we need to look at everything to determine exactly how to respond to those specific letters, those request letters. Okay, so I recommend, Irshmeet, that you book a consult, and you can do that by going to my temporary little page. And I'm super excited because I finally got the information for my site to my web developer. But this right now is where you go, Urshmeet, and you can schedule a consultation. And all you have to do is go to holthelaw.com. I'll put it in the comment section, and that's where you can go to book a paid consultation. And then we can go through everything and make sure that you're answering this properly. You are very, very lucky, Urshmeet. Unbelievably lucky, my friend. And the reason I say that is because they could have refused your application. But what's happened is, in the time period from 2019 to 2020, the minimum income that you needed to provide has increased. And that's why at the time you filed your application, yes, $1,250 was enough, but now it's more. So you have to be careful how you respond and how you support it. But at this stage, the most important thing is, if you'd like us to actually figure out the exact best way of answering, is to book that consult. All right. I also want to take a second again to give a shout out to just this awesome group. And I will do it repeatedly because they've been so kind and so good to me. And they're called Parrot Solutions. And right now they're based in Vienna, Austria. and they are the ones that are developing my website. And they're amazing. They are so good, and they're the ones who helped me to design my little logo here. And yeah, but overall, I'm just super grateful to have had the ability and opportunity to connect with them and have them help me building out my website. So it's not far now. Now they've been hounding me, and finally I've gotten my website. So all right, at least I've got the information to them to start building out the website. All right, so Parth says, I'm landing on March the 10th. Okay, congratulations. That's so awesome, Parth. When asked about how much cash you're carrying, do we only need to disclose hard cash, or do we need to tell them about the money in Forex cards? P.S. My proof of funds will remain in my account. I'm planning to carry extra cash in 3 Forex cards. Can we bring someone else's Forex card to Canada Mother? Okay, so in these situations, Parth, what they're asking is cash. So there's no, with the funds that you're bringing in, if you've got cash that equates to more than basically $10,000, then you have an obligation to disclose it. At the end of the day, when you're filling in your card for landing, it's cash. Now, one thing I will confirm with you is that with these Forex cards, I'm assuming they're kind of traveler's check. I'm assuming, and in those circumstances, technically that's not considered to be cash, but there's no harm as well in disclosing it. Okay, so there's no harm in you disclosing it. It's not going to harm anything. If they say, oh, it's not a big deal, it won't be a big deal. But it's cash that you really need to be focused on. Okay, Afsar says, hey, Mark, can you go 2 questions above to answer mine? I want to help my friend. Okay, Afsar. All right, I'll go back 2 questions before. Let's see if we can find it. See if I can remember. Okay, all right, Afsar, here we go. Hey, I have a friend who doesn't get any points for age. Okay, so they're at least probably 45. Despite scoring CLB 9s in both TEF and IELTS, having a PhD degree and more than 10 years of NOCA experience, his score is less than 440. Yeah. Yes, the federal skilled worker. So he scored 69 on the federal skilled worker scale thanks to a consultant who have already charged around, oh my goodness. Okay, let's read it. Okay, thanks to a consultant who has already charged around $10,000 USD just to tell him that he is eligible and should pay the remaining amount so that his EE profile can be submitted. My friend is of the opinion that Canadian immigration lawyers can get him through even if you have a low CRS score, and I'm trying to tell him that it doesn't work this way. Can you shed some light on it, and I will show him your video so that he doesn't get ripped off further by some fake greedy lawyers. Okay, the first thing I want to do, Afsar, I get extremely offended myself when lawyers are equated to consultants. There are some wonderful consultants out there, wonderful, who are knowledgeable, who are ethical, but there are so many that are crooked, scammers, cheaters, and others that genuinely are trying to do what's right, but have no clue what they're doing. In this case, this person is, well, understand there are rationale and there's a reason for putting an express entry profile into the system, because some provinces do draw people out based on their work experience. So it is possible with a lower CRS score to receive a passive notification of interest from a province like Alberta, for instance. But when we're talking about these kinds of dollars, like, do you guys appreciate, when I work directly with someone head to head, and I do it all the time. I love it. It's my new model of representation, is where I work directly with them to create their own application. This is the whole model that I'm shifting to. I charge $3,000 Canadian, and I can guarantee that no one out there in the market, no one goes through the level of detail that I go through when we're preparing that application to submit through my client's own MyCIC portal. And I can't speak for what you're saying here in terms of the money. That's so off the charts. I can't even imagine. For me, I'll tell you, when I have an individual that's scoring 440 and there is no guarantee that they're ever going to get an invitation to apply, that's why I created my Bronze Plus plan, which for $1,500, I help them set up their profile in their own portal. I review all the documents to make sure that what they're putting in their profile is correct. And that's it. $1,500 plus. Alberta is the best province in Canada because it's 5% sales tax, not over 10% like many other provinces are. But Afsar, you can tell your friend that he should just book a consult with me. I'm serious. Book a consult for $200. Heck, if he's already paid $10,000 US, like what is that? 40,000 Canadian? Okay, I'm being a little facetious, but in that situation, it pains me to see that. And I don't want to jump to conclusions because I don't know. But one thing I do want to emphasize is you've indicated here that thanks to a consultant. So don't mix consultant and an immigration lawyer. They're two different things, very, very different requirements to become each. And so I'm an immigration lawyer. I'm not a consultant. And I don't know, I couldn't quite tell from your comment whether it was a greedy lawyer, like you said, or whether it was a greedy consultant. But in the end, it doesn't really matter. I recommend, Afsar, that your client, or sorry, your friend, just books a paid consult for $200 in 25 minutes. We can go through everything and I can tell them what really they need to know. And that's what I do with all of the consults that I set up with my clients. Okay, good one. That was worth shifting back to, Afsar. Although, holy cow, 10,000 US. Ugh, maybe I'm not charging enough, guys. Okay, all right. So now I'm on to Kawaja. Okay, and remember, the whole issue here is if you have questions that are specific to yourself, they're not appropriate for the live Q&A. Only questions that would be of benefit to the people, all the people that are watching this, that's what you focus on. All right, and I also want to say here before I jump into the next question here, in the back, Igor didn't get a chance to indicate what this was. So those of you, this is in, I believe it's in Kyiv, Ukraine, this backdrop that I have, and that's where I'm broadcasting from. But this monument is of significance, tremendous significance to the people of Ukraine. And I want to see who watching this actually can tell me in the comments below what this might be. So I'll wait and see who can tell me what that is. And you know what, guys? I think I'm going to give a free lifetime access to the first person who can give me a good description of what this is. And I will let Igor determine whose description is the best, and he will choose who will get the free lifetime access to my Express Entry Do-It-Yourself guide. For those of you who are wondering what this guide is all about, I'll just shift my screen really quickly. I'll go to the Canadian Immigration Institute, and this is where you can find it. And if you go to individual guides right here, and then you scroll down and click on Learn More, it takes you right to all the information that you need to understand what this is. And for those of you who are watching this and have watched it for years, you can see that there are so many testimonials, so many people. This is a step-by-step guide to doing it yourself. Now, I don't know if I can actually get in to show you what it looks like inside. Oh, I can. Great. So your app, there's a wonderful app that has all of this in here, but this is the course. And it takes you through step-by-step every single aspect of the whole Express Entry process. It starts from learning the basics, where you learn what it's all about and how the comprehensive ranking system works, which is really important because friends like Afsar, if they subscribe to this and they watch this short little video, they would understand whether or not they actually had a chance of succeeding or not, and whether or not to waste $10,000 US on an immigration process that really has a very low likelihood of success. So that's the first module. And when we go back and go into module 2, it's all about preparing yourself to submit your profile. Because in many cases, you may not be even remotely qualified. And so this helps you to understand what you need to do, how to register for your own MyCIC account, and then eligibility. Are you even eligible? Do you have Canadian experience? Let's look at your eligibility. Do you not have Canadian experience? Then there's a separate video for that. And as we go through here, all these modules, there's a total of 5, plus this member resource section. In module 3, it's all about completing your Express Entry profile. So for the $497 US that I charge for the course, you can save a tremendous amount of money doing it yourself and with the help from this little guide. And I shouldn't say little because there's over 40 separate videos that all talk about every single step of the way. Whether you're a principal applicant, whether you're a spouse, it's all here. And even from the standpoint of registering with the job bank, which right now really doesn't serve much of a purpose, but understanding your profile, updating your profile, and then what it's like when you actually receive your invitation to apply. So all of that is in module 3. Then module 4 is all about the EAPR, what it looks like when you get your ITA, how to complete all of the sections and everything. And there's information for you as the principal applicant. There's information for your spouse if you have an accompanying spouse, and how to complete the sections for dependent children. So it's all in here in module 4. And module 5 is the one that I'm the most proud of. Module 5 is everything that I could think of related to documents. And so lesson 40, if I open up lesson 40 and oh good, it's not starting automatically. In lesson 40, it's all about the document checklist, and it has a ton of resources on how to collect the documents that you need. And when you go through all of this process, I just realized that all of my videos all point back to my old law firm. Well, obviously, Holte Immigration Law. I'm going to have to update all of these. Oh, the joys of changing firms. Anyways, so understand, if you want to reach me, it's info@holtelaw.com. Not all of the references to Stringham, which was my old law firm. But you can see here, I have tons of sample documents that are all here available for download. Gift deed samples. I have work permits, so you can see what an actual work permit looks like. Labor market impact assessments, when people are selling you job offers and saying, hey, you can come to Canada, I'll get you an LMIA. Here's some samples to know whether or not they're scamming you. There's samples for everything from all of the civil status documents, birth certificates with translations and what needs to be included. Obviously, employment letters and records of employment and job offer samples. And all of these things are here. Gift deeds. I have educational credential assessments from all of the major ECA organizations. And all of these are here available, and they're all a part of this whole process. And you'd think, okay, great. 5 modules that walk you through the whole process, understanding the documents and completing them. All of that's wonderful, great. But what most people don't understand is that I have this massive member resource section. You guys can sit here, watch the videos that I show. You can go through and scour trying to find your answers. Well, it's all organized here. I've got unbelievable information and documentation. Once I had someone go back and request a refund, and that person had no clue. I knew they were just too lazy to actually look through it. They watched a few videos and just made assumptions that they missed out on all of the wealth of information that's here. Everything about the whole process. There's general information. There's specific ones targeting work experience, including a very detailed one on self-employed work experience and all the things that you can do. There's the language assessments. I even have a video on how to increase your language score. I brought in a English IELTS former examiner to talk about tips and strategies. There's a whole sections on eligibility, increasing your chances of success, job offers, what they really are. There's even links back to interviewing for jobs in Canada, proof of funds sections, police clearances, dependent family, non-accompanying spouses. If you're choosing to list your spouse as non-accompanying, here's how you complete the forms. Education, medicals, information on provincial nomination, and how do you prove that you've been nominated by a province. When you have a name change, relatives in Canada, dependent children, spousal relationships, provincial nomination programs again, express entry refusals. What are the main reasons? So I hope you guys can appreciate, I don't do a lot of really publicizing this, and I haven't over the last little while. Mostly, I think, because I've been so swamped and busy doing this and the regular representation. But if you have not purchased a subscription to my Express Entry Complete Step-by-Step Guide to doing it yourself, I'll be honest, you are completely missing out on an opportunity. And in fact, many of my clients have already subscribed to the DIY Guide, and then they book consults with me to clarify any of the specific unique things that are relating specifically to their to where they're at. Okay, so I've officially spent enough time blithering on about all of that. And so let's get back to the questions at hand. So back to Kawaja. So it says, looking forward to your help. I've got a total of 6 years, 2 months. My profile, first job. Okay, need your help to guide me, and I'm able to decide under which knock. Okay, this is a perfect example right here Kawaja, where you'd need to book a paid consultation. You would actually need to go to my firm's site right here and fill out the consultation, and then we can go through and we can basically confirm your knocks. We can confirm all of the information that you're looking for answers on. And so I just wanted to let you know about that. That's the direction that that you would need to go, because this is really a specific question that doesn't apply to everyone else. Okay, next one is Urshmeet. And Urshmeet says, hey, Mark, my express entry was taking too long. Okay, and yes, we've answered that one already. Michael Botta says, hi, Mark, I have a question. I'm on a postgrad work permit. I have more than a year in NOC B in Canada, but my actual work is in NOC C. Can this play against me in my application? Should I mention this current job? If you have 1 year of work experience in NOC B in Canada, well, that's fine. That will allow you to get through the Canadian experience class, but you should not be working in a NOC C position. It's not helping you. It's the worst thing that you can do on a postgrad work permit that's going to expire. So Michael, you really, really have to look at your situation and see if you can transition to something else. But with that being said, that's not an issue. If you have enough points to qualify and get an ITA with only that 1 year of NOC B experience, then you can go through the process. That's the minimum entry criteria for the Canadian experience class. But wasting your time in a NOC C position in Canada is just something it just kills me when I see people with those golden postgrad work permits who are, for whatever reason, just not able to, well, what do you say? They're just not able to qualify because they've wasted all of that time working in a NOC C. Okay, I need to take a quick look here, and because we're already at 1 o'clock, I just want to make sure that I don't have another appointment, because I do have a spousal review this afternoon. Okay, I'm good. I've got time. It's not until 2 o'clock. I always try to give myself time to actually do a good job at these EE Live Q&As. And so bear with me as we move forward here. Okay, Mark says, great name, Mark, I might add. He says, hi, Mark, thanks for your great informative live Q&A. I received my confirmation of permanent residence 2 weeks ago, and I've sent an email for a landing appointment. I've not heard anything from CIC. Can I walk into the office without an appointment? Nope, you can't, Mark. You've got to ride it out, my friend. So you have to wait for their instructions. Okay. All right. Urshmeet says, thank you, Mark. We'll do that. You bet. Faisal says, interested. Okay, great. You know how to do it, Faisal. Just go right here. Go to the healthylaw.com website, and you can schedule your consult just by filling in the information right here. And very quickly, Mauricia will onboard you and get you the link to book your appointment and pay the consult fee, which is $200 Canadian, plus 5% GST, which basically makes it $210. Okay, Guy says, hi, Mark. I see people referring to two types of AOR. One is the confirmation CIC received the application, and the other is received later. When should we expect the second AOR? Well, really, that's the completeness check phase, and that's when they've had a chance to go through. And it usually takes sometimes about a month, sometimes sooner. You'll know about it. At least all you have to do for timing to figure out how long it is when people get their applications returned for being incomplete. Well, that's at the stage where they're doing the completeness check. So that's kind of ruffling the timing. Okay, Giancarlo says, hi, Mark. I've extended my study permit till November, summer term. Initial expiration date was July, all right, because my program has an optional work term, but now I don't want to take it. So I'll be graduating on May. Will I have any problems? If I want to apply for the postgrad, what is the time limit to apply for a SOWP, spousal open work permit, I think, based on my study permit. Thanks a lot. Okay, so this one, Giancarlo, I'll be honest, I'm not exactly sure the nature of your question. And I need to know a little bit more information about the program and what you're doing, what's been submitted, and what's being unraveled. Because if you've held out one thing and that's resulted in you getting extensions of your study permit, and then you decide not to do that, sometimes there's ramifications of that, but I would only know what to do with that situation by understanding your background and everything in a lot more detail than what you're able to provide here in the comment section. So unfortunately, in that case, I can't really tell you as far as time limit and those kinds of things. But if you want to book a consult, we can go over that in detail. All right. All right. Simon says, hi, Mark. Question from Winnipeg. Awesome. Now, Simon, did you know that I am a proud graduate of the Faculty of Law in Robson Hall at the University of Manitoba? And so I have unbelievably fond memories of my time spent in Winnipeg. Oh, now it's been a long time ago. I think it's been almost 20 years since I was first there. Can you believe that? Yes, I'm an old man. All right. So he said here, I am an inland Manitoba PNP applicant with paper-based application. I called IRCC. They said my criminality's passed, but they said they're working for my wife's background check. My question is, how long does it take to get a passport request after the criminal check is passed? So what they are working right now after criminal check. Estimated time for passport request, applied December 2018, 18 months over June 2020. You're right on track, Simon. And more than likely, your application is going to be finalized right around that time period. And so that kind of 15 to 18 months, it kind of fluctuates up and down. You're right on track, Simon. So I would expect it to be approved right around that time. I can see no reason why it wouldn't. Okay, Callum says, hi, Mark. When we make an express entry profile, should we disclose all employment or just the main NOC we are applying through? And then submit all other employment once we get an ITA. I'm a bit confused by this. Yes, Callum, when you're submitting your work history, you need only include the work history that you intend to claim comprehensive ranking system points for and prove. And that's in the profile stage. When you get your ITA, then that electronic application for permanent residence will open up this whole personal history section. And that's where you're going to document every single thing that you've done. Okay? All right. Good question. Okay. Okay. So Caro, same situation. I know you're asking some more questions, and I understand your confusion. Trust me, it's not easy to determine. Full-time student, if you take at least classes for 15 hours a week, it really comes down to whether or not you held a study permit or not, and that's really whether or not you can claim the actual work experience or not. It really comes down to that. If you've held a study permit, then that's where you're excluded from being able to include that as Canadian work experience. Okay, New says Independence Monument is a victory column. Haha, we may have a winner here. So New says Independence Monument is a victory column located on Maiden, Nezalznosti. This is me trying to pronounce it. I apologize for not being very good at pronouncing this. So it's basically Independence Square in Kyiv, and it is commemorated to the independence of Ukraine. Awesome, very cool. Stylistically, it presents a mix of Ukraine Baroque and Empire style. The monument was built in a compositional center of the square to the 10th anniversary. Awesome. Very, very cool. All right. We may very well have a winner, Nuri. And so I said, whoever can post quickly what this monument is in the background here in Kyiv, which this whole background was provided by Igor, my guest today. And that's where I'm broadcasting from, this amazing, amazing central location in Kyiv. So you may very well be the winner, but Igor is going to be the one to make that determination. Okay, Gersant says, hello, Mark. I'm from India and have 1311 NOC with 446 CRS. Any chance to get EE soon? Okay, so this example, Gersant, is also a situation where it's asking about, am I eligible? That would require a paid consultation. And as always, you can do that right here at holthylaw.com, and you can book that paid consult. We can go through everything, and I can help you to understand all aspects of the process and whether or not you actually have a realistic chance of maybe getting a provincial nomination or some other form of option. However, I will tell you that 446 right now is way lower than you would ever get an ITA through the general express entry process. We're almost looking pretty much at 470 as the new threshold. Okay, and then we have another question. What should 440s people do? Well, that's why I have my Bronze Plus plan. It's to assist you in making sure you have all the documents you need and that the information you're putting into your profile is 100% correct. And then it's a matter of your work history and whether or not you're going to get a notification from another a notification of interest from a province who's looking for your particular skill sets. And there's no real way of telling with 100% degree which knock code and which work experience could be drawn for provinces like Alberta, for instance. But there was a time where I would tell people, you don't have a chance of getting an ITA, so there's almost no point in submitting a profile. But my feelings have changed a little bit now, because in some cases, I've seen Alberta draw as in the low 300s just because of the work experience you have. So it really depends on that. Okay. Okay, so then we're going to go here. Anise says, in case if the SIMP has misrepresentation ban for 2 years, can we apply for a study permit? If you've been found to misrepresent on any applications, my friend, that can be held against you in future applications. And it's a huge, huge issue. It would be very unlikely if you had a misrepresentation through the Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program. There's information sharing, but you have to, it's complicated in your situation. When you're applying for a study permit, there are times where it asks you to disclose what has happened in your past. And in your case, it's hard to tell exactly, without knowing what the misrepresentation really was, the impact it would have on a study permit. But it could, I want to emphasize, it could be used against you in refusing your study permit. Okay. Callum says, greetings from Scotland, by the way. Your videos have been a great help so far. You're very welcome, Callum. Okay. And then the follow-up question to the, hey, will 440 be enough, is what range do you expect the CRS draws to be around during this year, 2020? I think it's going to be right around 470 points. That's where I think it's going to sit. Okay. Sika says, hey, Mark, is it a problem if I submit my EAPR while on vacation abroad for 3 weeks? Please, do I need to send a new police report for my country of residence, even though the one I submitted is still valid, even after I return back from vacation? So the reality is it's locked in at the time in which you submit your EAPR. So when you submit your EAPR, it asks what your current country of residence is. And you haven't indicated here exactly what that would be. But I can tell you from my perspective, 6 months is the validity period. If it looks like, for whatever reason, I'm getting close to that period at the time I submit my EAPR, then I will often consider getting a new one after I've left that country. If it's a country you've never lived in for many, many years, and you obtain the police certificate after you left, then that police certificate does not necessarily expire. You can use it to submit your application. Immigration can always come back and ask more questions, but generally speaking, that's how I treat police certificates. Okay, and then Mohammed finishes off with the last question of today, which says how we get a work permit. And the response, Mohammed, is that is not something I cover in the Express Entry course and the Express Entry Live Q&A. So that's a question for another time. But generally speaking, work permits, you have to have a Canadian employer who can show there's no Canadian or permanent resident to fill the position before they can offer it to you. And the way they do that is by posting an advertisement and showing there's no Canadians that responded, and obtaining a labor market impact assessment from ESDC. Okay. All right. We're going to wrap this one up today. It was an awesome EE Live Q&A. Thanks for everyone who joined me, especially thanks to Igor, who shared his amazing story. And I'm so happy for him and his wife. As always, guys, if you have a question that you want to send and get answered, you can do so by sending an email to info@holthylaw.com and put EE Live Q&A in the subject line. And then you have to pass through Mauricia, and she will determine if your question is of a general importance such that it makes it through to get answered here in my next EE Live Q&A. I want to also identify that every Tuesday at noon is when I shoot for doing these, right here on the Canadian Immigration Institute it's the Canadian Immigration Institute business page. So you can find us on Facebook, and it's always spun out to our YouTube channel. And I want to express thanks to all those who are watching this as a recording. And as always, I want to remind everyone that this whole process is really sponsored and made possible by my Express Entry complete step-by-step guide. If you're just tuning in, go back and watch the information that I shared a little bit earlier, where I went into detail as to all of this awesome course. And for those of you who've stuck around to the very, very end, I want to show something to you. And so what I want to show you is a code that is available to you. And if you go into the CanadianImmigrationInstitute.com, you can go to individual guides. And actually, I need to pull this up just a little bit. I'm going to expand it a bit so people can see better. I'm going to go to learn more. And then I'm going to go purchase guide. And right here, the most popular, which is the lifetime access, if you click purchase guide, and then in the coupon code, you type EEDIY50 and click apply, you get 50% off that regular price. And so for those of you faithful listeners, $248.50 US is your lifetime access to this version of the Express Entry DIY guide. All right, that's it for today. Signing off from beautiful Kyiv, Ukraine. Those of you who have a wonderful image from your country that you would like me to broadcast from in my next EE Live Q&A, send an email to info@healthylaw.com with a picture of it. The higher the resolution, the better. And, or I should say, you can just message me on Facebook. All right, with that image. Thanks so much, guys. It's been a pleasure. This is Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher, signing off, wishing you all the best as you navigate this crazy world that we call Express Entry. Take care.